Okay, in this video we're going to cover IAM roles and as well as EC2 CLI commands and how to assign IAM roles and policies to your EC2 instances. And specifically, we're going to use we're going to try to run some CLI commands against the S3 service. I'm just going to show an outline of what we're going to cover. So we're going to show that we can't run S3 commands from the EC2 CLI against an S3 bucket. We're then going to create an IAM role with some canned IAM policies to run S3 read commands. We're then going to add an IAM policy to run some S3 write commands. And then we're going to remove the IAM role from EC2 completely. And then we'll also show how to remove the IAM policy from the IAM role. Okay, so let's start. So I already created some of these things before the video just to save some time. So I have an EC2 instance right here, and it is running without any IAM role right here. And also we have an S3 bucket right here. So this test website Misha, and it's just hosting a static website that I'm going to show here. So it's just a very simple static website. And what we want to do is we want to read this bucket and the files that are in it and also create new S3 buckets from an EC2 instance. So this would be, we want to give programmatic access or CLI access from the EC2 instance. And what we don't want to do is we don't want to give any credentials on that EC2 box because we want to obviously make it in a secure way. So what we don't want to do is we don't want to add our secret key and access key on the EC2. We're going to do it instead with IAM roles and policies. So first what we'll do is, excuse me, we're going to SSH into our instance. So our instance is here. This is the public IP is right here. I have it actually saved already from previous commands. Oh, maybe I don't. So let's just do let's find our key file. It's this one right here, testmisha.pm, PM, and then what we'll do is we'll do an SSH I and then give it the key file and then ec2-user and then at the public IP. Okay, so now we're inside the EC2 instance, and what we want to do is, so this is with Amazon Linux, Amazon 2 Linux, or sorry, Amazon Linux 2, and then it already comes with the AWS CLI on it. So if we just run AWS, it's already there. What we can do is we can run some, for instance, S3 commands. We just want to, let's say, list all the buckets in S3. So we'll do AWS S3 ls. And as you can see here, we don't have the credentials to run that command. And it wants us to, well, it says it basically, we can't run that command. And what I want to do is before I show you how to set it up, I'm going to just refer you to this page, which is the CLI, the AWS CLI master reference, and it has all the commands for all the different services. We're going to focus on the S3 service, which is right here. So the S3 has different commands like, listing all the buckets, creating a bucket, removing some objects within the bucket, and so forth. That's all here. So what we're running is we're running this ls command right here. So we just want to say AWS S3 ls, just like that, and that should give us the list of all our buckets, but we can't do that right now. So we're going to go into our IAM console, and we're going to create a new role. And this role is what we're going to assign to our EC2 instance. So we're going to create this role, and we're going to say it's for an AWS service for EC2, and we'll set the permissions. So these are all the canned policies that you can that you can assign to a role. And of course, you can create your own. I'll cover that in a separate video. But for now, we'll use one of the canned policies. So if we search for S3, so if we just want to do a list, so this one, Amazon S3 read-only access. So let's select that. And we'll add that policy to the role. And the tags we can skip. And we'll give this a name. Let's just call it like that. So this is the policy that's going to be added part of the role. We're going to create the role. Okay, and there it is. So there's our role. So we have this role now, and we can assign it to any EC2 instance. And because we already have our EC2 instance running, we will assign this role to that instance. And as you can see, if you look at the policy there, it allows any S3 get or list command. So now if we go back to our instance, which is here, and we can say instance settings, instance settings attach replace IAM role. And now let's attach the role that we just created. So let's search for my name. There it is. Okay. And we'll apply. Okay. Doesn't allow us. Okay, well, let's see why. So it doesn't have any role assigned to it. Let's refresh it. Okay, it still doesn't have a role assigned to it. All right, let's try again. So we're going to attach an IAM role. Okay. Okay, so that worked. I guess I just had to refresh it. And now we have the role assigned. So let's just confirm here. So there's the IAM role. If I click on that, it'll take me to the role in the IAM dashboard, which we already saw. So now I should be able to run the exact same command that I did before. Whereas before I didn't have it wanted the access key, but I don't want to give it the access key because I don't want to give it my credentials. But now just by using these roles, I can enable using the command of right here, the S3 ls command. So let's rerun that again. And there we go. So now it listed all the buckets that are in here, actually. So if we look at our S3, these are all the buckets that were listed. And now, actually, let's go to my bucket, which is right here. So now that we can list all our buckets, let's list the objects within my specific bucket. So we want to be able to see these two files right here. So let's go back, and now we can issue this command. We could say AWS S3 ls and then S3 : / and then the name of our bucket. The name of our bucket is right here, test website Misha, and then we just paste that in, and there we go. So now we see the two files that are in that bucket, or the two objects. Great. So now we just use bucket policies to enable connecting from our EC2 instance to S3. What we'll do now is we'll try to run a different command now. So if we look at the S3 commands, so that's just an ls command. Why don't we try creating a new bucket? So there's an MB, which is make bucket right here. And we could just give it like this. We'll use it AWS S3 make bucket, and then we'll just give it some bucket name. So let's say if we paste that in, and instead of my bucket, we'll give it some unique name. So let's say test, let's say EC2 CLI, and then I'll give it my name so it's unique. So let's try that. Okay, so you see how it said access denied, because we are not allowed to create new buckets because the policy only allowed reading from buckets, or listing buckets. It doesn't allow writing buckets. So what we'll have to do is we'll have to update the role and give it a policy where it'll allow us to write the bucket, write or create new buckets. So if we go back, here's our role. And actually, let's look up our role. So here's our role. Here are all the policies. So let's attach another policy. Let's attach, again, well, it's related to S3. So I'm going to search for S3. There's the full access policy, and this will allow basically any command on S3 it will allow. So let's attach that policy. And now we can actually get rid of this read-only access because the full access is a superset of that. So we can get rid of that. Okay, and now we have the full access. Great, and now if we go back to our command line, we should be able to run the same command, and it will now create that bucket for us. And there it is. So it created that bucket. And now if we go to our S3 console and we'll look for, we'll just filter it by my name. It looks like, yeah, I guess it takes a while. It takes maybe a few seconds to propagate in S3 in the GUI. We don't quite see it here. Let me refresh this page. And then I'll search for it again. And there it is. So there's the EC2 CLI that we just created. And as you can see, we didn't really set the permissions on it properly because it can be, it's right now it's open to the public. But again, just to create the bucket, we could do that. And we could also list it here. If we do S3 ls, and then if we grep that and we search for my name, so there it is, the EC2 CLI Misha, and so now we know that's that bucket is created. Now we can try to we can actually try to delete the bucket. So for deleting the bucket, if we go back to our S3 command, there's a RB, which is remove bucket, this one right here. And this deletes an empty S3 bucket, which we have. So we'll just do AWS S3 RB. And then, so we'll do that, and then we'll give it the name of the bucket, which is that. And let's do that. And there it is, remove bucket. So if I list all the buckets again, I won't see that bucket anymore. There, so I don't see the bucket, that CLI bucket. Great. So now we were able to attach policies for reading from a bucket and for writing and creating new buckets. So now what I'll do is I'm going to remove the IAM role from that EC2 instance. So if we go back to the EC2 instance, which is here, and if I say attach replace IAM role, and this is here, and if I just say no role, and if I hit apply, so it warns me, it says you will detach any role, and you basically, I won't be able to do anything anymore again with the S3 command. So I'll say yes, detach. And now if I go back to my EC2 instance, if I just want to do an ls command on the S3, it says don't have credentials anymore. So what I'll do is I will put it back, and we'll do it like this. And then I'll look for my name. There's the role. Apply. Okay, so now we have that role again. So now we should be able to list the buckets. Okay. Now what I can do, another way to update the role is to actually just remove the policy. So what I'll do is I'll go into the role, and there's the policy. And if I remove the policy of the full access for S3, basically it'll be an empty role with no policies. So now I'll detach that policy from the role, and now I won't be able to do anything with the S3 commands. There we go. So it's access denied. So I have a role, but there's nothing there. And that's it. So now we've covered creating a role, attaching policies, removing policies for an EC2 instance to access S3 commands through the CLI.